isn't working. And here we go. Okay. So today we were studying the great composers, the great compositions of the Renaissance painters. So I'm going to show you a few of the tricks and techniques that they used. Again, I'm not expecting you to draw or paint a picture that the Renaissance artist would have painted. As I said, that would take a very long time. We could probably spend an entire course just on Renaissance painting, on the great classicists, and we just don't have time for that. So I'm going to show you a few tricks and techniques that are going to help you with your art. But again, I don't expect you to become a classicist overnight. So there's whole courses devoted to this. But let's just start with something simple. So if you recall, perhaps this pencil's not as dark as I hoped. If you recall, I was mentioning the use of the triangle. Now, when you're composing your art, you don't need to draw this triangle on your page, but I'm just giving you an example right now. So let's just imagine that this is our page, and I'm trying to create this composition here. The triangle is something I'm going to put in my imagination. When you hand in your assignments, guys, these guidelines and these tips that I show you, you do not have to hand it in with those guidelines on it. In fact, when you're ready to hand it in, when you're making a good copy, you shouldn't be putting those things in. So I don't expect you to see you put this on your paper. But if you recall, one of the pieces of art we looked at was the Birth of Venus. Now, I'm not even going to attempt, this isn't going to work. Here's my pen. Let's just start fresh. Okay, so imagine, and actually the Venus de Milo was more of a sideways piece anyways, so we're just going to do this. And I'm going to put an imaginary triangle there. I'm drawing the triangle so that you can see it right now, but you wouldn't have seen it on the painting. So imagine that we have the Venus de Milo, and she's stepping out of the water, and she's got her hand here, and her legs are crossed. And this is the focal point of our painting. Okay? Now you notice what they did is they had another figure over here. And I'm just going to draw, I'm just roughing this out. This is just meant to illustrate composition. You don't have to have. And she was throwing a blanket or a piece of cloth, and she was throwing that up in the air. And then over here you had an angel with these wings, and there was another person over his side, and they were facing down like this. So you see what the artist has done, and then our horizon line would be in the background, and then there was this great big seashell right here. And you see what the artist did compositionally is he made the focal point Venus, and he had all of these other things around her, but your eye is immediately drawn right to the central character. Okay, so when you're doing compositions, that's an easy way to really draw attention to your subject, whatever it might be. So imagine the paper is straight up and down like this. This is my paper, and I want to create this kind of a composition here again. I might do something kind of like this, where I'd have my figure standing like this. Maybe I'll put his shoulders like this. And I'm going to put his arm out here. Just a very basic hand here. I'm kind of doing an upward version here. And I might put an arm over here. Maybe I'll make this one put like a hand on a hip. And you get this idea again of this composition, and he might have his legs out this way kind of thing here. This would make a very regal pose if you were doing a composition of, again, a portrait. So we did portraits earlier, but you get the idea. This is a very regal pose this person has. They've got their shoulder out front. And of course, if we were doing Greek and Roman, he'd probably have large muscles. And I'm just going to frame in some muscles here. And, you know, maybe a sword would be at his side here. I'm just going to draw the scabbard very quickly. And you get this very imposing figure using this very simple compositional technique of the triangle. Okay, and the triangle can also be inverted as well. So let's say, again, this is my page here. I'm going to just draw a big page, and this doesn't have to be perfect. It's just for style here. I had you drawing comic book characters, so the triangle could be inverted here. Perhaps we have a character who's flying out. I'm just going to draw a very simple superhero pose here. Imagine those are his wrists and his hands. And then I'm just going to kind of use foreshortening. And then maybe a cape. So this could be like Superman, or if it wasn't a cape, I could make this Iron Man. But you can see this sort of figure lunging towards the sky or lunging towards the screen, and you get this idea once again of this compositional idea of using the triangle. So that's one thing to note, is this use of the compositional triangle. There are actually other shapes you can use, but you'll notice that in the classicists use this an awful lot, was the idea of this triangle. Let me give you a few other examples of some compositional techniques that'll help make your art better. Okay, another thing is what we call the rule of thirds. Have I shown this to you guys yet? Because I do this so many times, I'm just wondering if you guys have seen this before. The rule of thirds is very simple. It works very, very, very well. And it's, again, something that the classicists really developed. The rule of thirds basically says, this is my piece of paper. And again, you don't have to actually do this. Once you get used to it, you start to eyeball it pretty easily. But once you see what I'm doing here, you'll see what I mean. What we do is we break the composition up into, well, and I didn't do a very good job here. Let's move this one here. You know what? I'm going to start again, because otherwise it'll get too confusing. So if we have a canvas that's sort of a landscape like this, I'm just going to grab 3 lines, and I'm going to split it into 3 equal sections. Now you can see this middle section's a little bigger. It's okay. Doesn't have to be completely perfect, as long as you have the right idea. And again, I'm going to go thirds down this way. The most important focal points then are going to be these 4 sections. When I'm doing composition then, it's good to pay attention to what I'm going to be doing in these areas here. So let's say, for example, I wanted to draw a person here. I'm going to draw a person right here. And we're not going to see this whole person because I drew their head rather large. I'm going to put their shoulders out this way. Arm here. His neck will be here, and I kind of made his shoulders a little high here. That's all right. So I'm going to put a person here. And you can see that the focal point then is this person standing in this section of the third. And then his arm will be over here. Now, if I wanted to add another person, I could do that. But I'm going to put this person here. And because they're a little bit further back, you're going to see just a little bit more of this person here. So this one, we only see the shoulders and chest. This person here, I'm just going to form the neck. He's got a rather thick neck. Doesn't really matter because he's not going to be a finished drawing anyways, because I'm just drawing in pen here. So this person's a little further back, and I could have actually made this head even a little bit smaller and drawn a little bit more of this person. This isn't the greatest example, but you can kind of see what I'm doing here. The rule of thirds is showing me where I'm supposed to be putting these characters. In fact, what I probably should have done, let's do that. I'm going to do another one here. And again, split it up into 3, 3, 3. I'm going to put my one character here, and I'm going to put my other character here. And you'll see what I mean, again, by the rule of thirds. It's going to make this really, really stand out. So I've got my one character here, and my other character is kind of here. And it creates this interesting look compositionally, much better than this one up here, actually. So I'm kind of glad I did this one just as sort of an example of what not to do. But you can see now how compositionally this will work. So this person could be looking in that person's direction. This person could be looking off into the sky or something like that. And it creates this interesting sort of balance. So that's something you can look at. If I wanted to do it straight up, so imagine instead I'm just using my piece of paper like this. Once again, I can still do the rule of thirds. These are the areas here that we want to hit. So I've been drawing people, but let's say we wanted to do something with, say, landscaping. So imagine here, maybe I've got a mountain here. Not a fantastic mountain. Obviously, I'd have to spend more time on it, but I've got a mountain here. And so compositionally, to make it work, I've got something large here. To make it work, I should put something here. So I'm going to put a sun. It could be a cloud, maybe some sun with clouds, or the moon or something like that. And so you can see compositionally how this works out, the rule of thirds. I've got something here, and it's kind of small. I mean, it's the sun, obviously. It's not going to be that small in real life, and then I've got this mountaintop here to kind of create this visual representation that I'm talking about in the rule of thirds. So I'm using these two areas now as opposed to these two areas, which you can't see. Hang on, these two areas. Okay, so you can kind of see then some compositional things you can do there. Let me grab another piece of paper. Let's try this again. Again, if my canvas was here, and I'm not going to draw in the third lines this time because I don't need to. I can eyeball this. So imagining if, I don't know, let's say that there's a house here. Actually, this is very similar to the lesson I took on this. So let's say that there's a house here. I've just given it a little bit of 3 dimensions just to make it kind of interesting. And then I'm going to maybe make it on a hill or something here. And then maybe add some angles to it so there's a bit of a road coming this way. So right now it looks okay. I'm just messing with the road here a little bit. I could probably do some more to make this more interesting. But right now it looks okay, but you can see that there's something glaringly missing in this picture. And that's because this whole section here is blank. So what can I do? What can I add here? So in the class that I took, the artist might do a large tree here. And I'm actually just going to frame out the tree. So the tree is actually, like very large because it's right in the view of the camera here. And so I don't know, maybe a branch even. Yeah, a branch works because a branch frames the house that I'm looking at. So you can see just adding in something here, and I just very quickly scribbled a tree. It creates this really, really nice frame, and then I added, a couple of branches. It creates this really, really nice frame for this house, which I want to be the focal point. Okay? So again, when we were looking at some of the compositions this morning, and I'm not going to try and recreate these compositions, guys. It's crazy. Especially if I'm trying to do it really quickly like this. And I'm not asking you guys to do it either. When they draw their canvas, and a lot of times the canvas would be sort of in this landscape style. You'll also notice, guys, movies have used this technique for years too. They know that the canvas is like this, so when they're composing their shots, they also use the rule of thirds quite often. So, for example, if I was to draw, I don't know, I'll do a famous scene from a movie most of you have probably seen, and if you haven't, that's okay. And I'm sorry to give away the spoiler, but let's say we've got a guy, and he's holding up his hand. I'm just really roughly framing out the hand here. And he's got his thumb coming out this way. Very famous scene from a movie you might recognize where a guy says, "I am Iron Man." And I think I put his thumb on the wrong way. Yeah, his thumb should have come out this way, but hey, whatever. I am Iron Man. He's got his hand out in front. He's got the infinity jewels all along his hand here. And you know that very popular scene. I am Iron Man. He snaps his fingers and yay, the world is saved. Notice it hits the thirds. This is the third right here. This is the third right here. You notice it was perfectly framed in that particular picture, that particular moment. So this is not by accident, guys. This is by design. Okay, so I want you to think about this a little bit. How am I going to take this idea now and frame it into a picture? So I showed you the triangle. You can use other shapes too. For example, if I used a circle as my composition. So imagine this is my paper and I've used a circle here. Maybe I've got a character here and they're holding their arms out like this. I'll make the circle a little bigger. They're holding their arms out like this. This would be a religious figure kind of thing, because again, a lot of the Renaissance art was very religious. And then maybe people, I'm just going to draw the backs of their heads here. Maybe people kind of standing around here, you know, kind of looking in at this character, you know. And I'm just really roughly framing it, but you can see what I'm doing here. The circle does not need to be drawn, but I'm just showing you guys different composition techniques that these classicists would use. And then very likely, if this was a religious character, he'd probably have some kind of a halo or something to note their holiness. And then very likely there would be some kind of light beams zooming down on the central character. You know, just to sort of denote how holy they were and how important they were. And so you kind of have an idea now of what I mean by composition. So, having shown you all that now, and I hope some of you were paying attention, and if you're paying attention to your phone, I hope you certainly are paying attention to what I have posted on the phone. But if you have not, well, this is all stuff that you can very easily look up. And in fact, some of the stuff that I did today is stuff that I learned taking my own course. So you can probably find some YouTube videos which show this stuff. But taking a look at what I've done here, we've got the triangle composition. And this is sort of my version of the Venus de Milo here. You've got your very regal figure standing here. And we just did comic characters, so you could have experimented with that. We've got some landscaping here with the tree and the house. I am Iron Man here. The very religious figure. Where else is I was looking for the one I did of the... Oh, here we go. We've got the mountain and the sun. Or we've got the people standing sort of visually off to each other here. And this also kind of forms a triangle if you think about it. So what I want you to do is to do a picture using composition. So I'm going to leave it fairly open-ended. There's lots of options that you can choose to do. You can choose to do it as a landscape. So using the technique of the thirds, remember you'll have something very prominent in the front, and then you'll have some lesser seen things sort of in the back using this rule of thirds. If you wanted to do like a portrait of someone in an impressive pose, you can certainly use the triangle version of that and the style of that. You can do all kinds of different things. You saw how I also used the rule of thirds to frame something. So like, the tree branches, for example, covering the house. You can also do this with people too. Let me see if I have a blank sheet here. Here we go. So let's say, for example, I've got a guy or a girl, doesn't have to be any specific thing. There's a person here, and I'm just going to frame them out very quickly. Okay, so in my rule of thirds, I probably should have put that person over here. Let's try it again. So we'll just imagine this is a person kind of walking. And compositionally make this interesting. So here's my third tree. If it's not the woods, this could be a building. This could be a signpost. It could be a traffic light. It could be anything. I'm just making a tree just because all I have to do is sort of shade in the tree, and you guys say, oh, yeah, okay, that's a tree. Then maybe there's a large bush here, and I can just kind of... Maybe another tree over here. See, you get the idea now. I framed my character, whoever it might be, and I've added these trees, but the eye is drawn immediately to the person walking here. So again, there's different things you can do with this. You can add people if you want. You can do it with animals. Animals often do the triangle thing quite well. And a lot of these portraits that you've seen, for example, and I could do some of the greatest artists, they use this triangle. You'll have this character standing very regal at the front. And I keep doing the shoulder to the side here, so I'm going to just change it up a little bit and add the shoulder over here. And, maybe they're holding their arm down like this. And then you might have other characters sort of standing. And this person, I am going to draw their shoulder down this way. So this person's maybe crossing their legs or something like that here. There we go. That looks more like a person. This person standing off to the side here will be like this. And then maybe this is a rock or a monument, or if it was a battle scene, a lot of battle scenes. If you recall Michelangelo, when he did the Sistine Chapel, there were clouds and different things. So compositionally, he showed his characters through the clouds. So this person would be here and kind of standing like this. And if there was anybody else, maybe put someone down here. But the focus tends to go to whoever's at the top of the triangle. So I'm just giving you lots of examples, guys. Lots of things to work with. You can look this up on all kinds of YouTube videos, drawing sites, composition. There's lots and lots of lessons on this. So I want you to try and use what we've learned from learning about the Renaissance this morning, and seeing these just rough drawings that I've done this afternoon on creating a composition. Practice doing either the rule of thirds or working on this triangle idea to kind of create this image that we're talking about. And like I said, it does not have to be a person. If you find it easier maybe to just draw a building, or to draw a flower or a tree or a rock or whatever, and then just try and frame these other things around it using the rule of thirds or this triangle idea, you'll find that once you start practicing this concept, it's really easy to do, and it'll make your drawings that much better because it'll make them more pleasing to the eye. It'll make them more interesting for people to see. So that is what I'd like you working on today. So I'm going to shut this live feed down.